Rintaro was a shy and often overlooked guy because of his tall and intimidating appearance. This deeply affected him emotionally, causing him to give up on socializing. However, everything changed when he met Karuko Wagure, a kind and sweet girl who loves to eat. It was just another regular day at the two schools standing side by side. Kikyo, the prestigious all-girls school, and Chidori, the rough all-boys school. Rintaro, a student from Chidori, sat by the window, staring at the building next door. He had long accepted that he'd never understand the world of Kikyo girls. They avoided Chidori boys like they were contagious. One morning, Rintaro's friends, Saku, Sohei, and Ayato, got into an argument with two boys from another school. None of them wanted to take the blame, and they all started blaming each other. Things were about to turn into a fight, but then Rintaro stepped in. Just one serious look from him was enough to scare the other boys away. Afterward, he lightly scolded his friends for starting trouble, but they turned around and said it was actually Rintaro's fault. The two boys had apparently said something about him earlier. As they walked to school, Rintaro remembered why one of those guys might have recognized him. A while ago, there had been a couple arguing in front of his house. The girl slapped the guy and stormed off. Rintaro, trying to be helpful, walked up to the boy to check if he was okay. But the boy panicked, thought Rintaro was going to hit him, and ran away, only to trip and hurt himself. When Rintaro finished telling the story, his friends didn't look impressed. They knew Rintaro was kind, but his intimidating appearance often made people think he was dangerous. As the group continued walking, they passed two Kikyo girls. The girls quickly looked down and avoided eye contact. One of them dropped her handkerchief. Trying to be nice, Sohei picked it up and tried to return it. But the girl just glared at him and told him to throw it away. She didn't want anything to do with boys from Chidori. Sohei shrugged it off, pretending not to care. He told himself she was just too shy to talk to someone as handsome as him. The boys then entered their own school. It was a plain and simple building, nothing like the beautiful and clean Kikyo Academy next door. Rintaro couldn't help but think about how different the two schools were. The Kikyo girls acted like Chidori boys were some kind of threat. Chidori had a bad name. It was known for poor grades, wild boys, and a lack of discipline. The dislike from Kikyo was so strong that the girls even kept their curtains closed just so they didn't have to see the boys' school. Later, while Rintaro was scrolling through his phone, he got a notification. He had work that day and had to turn down his friend's invitation to hang out. That afternoon, heavy rain poured down as Rintaro ran to the cafe where he worked. His boss, Kyuko, who was also his mom, greeted him. Rintaro nervously asked if it was really okay for him to serve customers. He worried his scary appearance might drive him away. But Kyuko smiled and told him not to worry. There was only one customer to take care of. The rest of the staff were busy baking pastries for the next day's event, so Rintaro was in charge of the front counter. While setting things up, he noticed a wet umbrella by the entrance. Looking around, he saw a girl sitting alone at a table. She looked like a middle school student. What really caught his eye, though, was the stack of empty cake plates around her. She had already eaten several pieces. When the girl noticed him looking, her face turned red and she started to choke. Without thinking, Rintaro rushed over and gave her a glass of water. She quickly drank it but looked very embarrassed. Before he could say anything, she stood up, thanked him for the food, and ran out of the cafe. He was left standing there, unsure of what just happened. That night, while they were closing up, Kyuko casually told Rintaro that the girl's name was Wagure and that she was actually a regular customer. This only made Rintaro feel worse. He worried that his presence might scare her away for good. But Kyuko just laughed and told him not to worry. She said Wagure didn't seem like someone who would be easily scared, and that if anything, cake could solve the problem. The next day, Rintaro was still bothered by what happened. During lunch, he sat quietly, thinking about how he might apologize or where he might see Wagure again. When his friends came over, he told them to go ahead without him. Sohei, watching him walk away, quietly wondered why Rintaro never shared what was really on his mind. After school, Rintaro was relaxing in his room when his mom came in with unexpected news. Wagure was at the cafe and wanted to talk to him. Still in his casual clothes, he rushed downstairs and saw her waiting. Caught off guard, Rintaro awkwardly said hello, but then Wagure surprised him by saying she would treat him. A few minutes later, Rintaro found himself sitting across from her with a slice of strawberry cake and a drink in front of him. Wagure had come to say sorry for running away the day before. At first, Rintaro tried to turn down the treat, but he noticed her sneaking glances at the cake. Quietly, he pushed the plate toward her, offering it back. Though she hesitated, the cake was too tempting to resist. As she began eating with small, happy bites, Rintaro watched in amazement. He couldn't believe someone with such a small frame could have such a big appetite. After finishing her cake, Wagure explained that she hadn't planned to eat so many pieces the day before. She thought she was alone and could enjoy herself without anyone seeing, but getting caught in the middle of her cake binge had embarrassed her. It wasn't fear that made her run away, it was shame. She then admitted she had seen Rintaro working at the cafe before and had always been curious about him. Only now did Rintaro understand. Wagiri had run away because she was scared of him. She had been nervous. It wasn't his scary face that made her panic, but something else. Being near him made her heart race. Rintaro was surprised. Most girls either avoided him or acted afraid when they saw him. But Wagiri's words were completely different. Her small confession replayed in his mind, and he felt his face grow hot. Not knowing what to do with all these feelings, he stood up and offered to walk her to the station since it was getting late. But before they left, she bought another cake and then said she'd walk by herself. The station wasn't far after all. As she walked away, she suddenly turned back and gave him a bright smile. "I never thought you were scary," she said gently. Then she disappeared into the night. What neither of them noticed was that two boys nearby had been watching everything, and they didn't look friendly. Later, back in his room, Rintaro stared at the floor, lost in thought. Wagiri's kindness felt strange compared to how others usually treated him. All the mean things people had said about him over the years came rushing back, things said ever since he was a kid. But through the noise of those memories, Wagiri's words echoed clearly in his head. For the first time in a long while, something inside him felt warm. That peaceful moment didn't last. His mom, Kyuko, suddenly burst into his room, holding a familiar box. It was one of the cakes Wagiri had bought, but she dropped it outside, not far from the cafe. Worry filled Rintaro's chest. If Wagiri had dropped the cake, maybe something had happened to her. He rushed outside and ran through the nearby streets, searching for any sign of her. He knew it could be dangerous at night. After a while, he heard his name being mentioned and followed the voices. What he saw made him freeze. Wagiri was cornered by two men. They were asking her questions about him. Rintaro stayed hidden and listened. The men were spreading rumors, saying Rintaro had always been a troublemaker, even back in middle school. They called Shigori a bad school full of losers and said his friends were no good either. Hearing their cruel words hurt Rintaro deeply. He knew his school didn't have the best reputation and he wasn't perfect, but hearing himself described like that still stung. But then Wagiri spoke up. She admitted the rumors sounded scary, but calmly asked why they believed such things without knowing Rintaro. She said if they talked to him, they'd see he was nothing like the rumors said. The men didn't listen. But Wagiri didn't argue. She just told them to stop spreading lies. It wasn't right to judge someone without trying to understand them first. One of the men let go of her arm, but the other raised his fist, ready to hit her. That's when Rintaro rushed in without thinking. He jumped in front of her and shielded her with his body. Wagiri gasped in shock. Rintaro made sure she was okay, then looked at the two guys with cold eyes. The moment they met his glare, both of them froze in fear and backed off without saying another word. Wagiri quickly ran to Rintaro. She reached up to his forehead. It was bleeding. He had hit it against the wall while protecting her. She began apologizing, worried that he was badly hurt. But Rintaro gently told her it wasn't from a punch, and it wasn't that serious. Then he said something unexpected. He told her the wound was like punishment for doubting her and for dragging her into trouble. Wagiri tried to lift his head, but he stayed bowed full of guilt. She had done nothing wrong and she got hurt because of him. But instead of letting him continue, Wagiri gently wiped the blood from his forehead and told him something he had never heard before. She couldn't understand why people were afraid of him, because to her, he clearly seemed like a kind person. She didn't accept his apology. Instead, she simply thanked him. In that moment, something changed inside Rintaro. He had always accepted that people would misunderstand him. But now someone was looking at him differently, with honesty and warmth. After all the stares full of fear and hate, Wagiri's smile felt like sunlight he had never expected to see. To make sure she got home safely, he walked her to the station. Just as he was about to leave, she called out to him. When he turned around, she was smiling and suggested that they eat cake together sometime. Surprised but quietly pleased, Rintaro nodded. Then they went their separate ways. He walked home while Wagiri waited for her train, still thinking about the moment he had stepped in to protect her. The next morning, Rintaro arrived at school much earlier than usual. He hadn't slept well, with thoughts of Wagiri lingering in his mind. As he stared out the window, wondering when she might visit the cafe again, something unexpected caught his eye. The curtains of the Kikyo school building shifted, and to his surprise, it was Wagiri peeking out from behind them. Their eyes met across the courtyard. Both of them froze. Rintaro quickly shut the curtains, confused and surprised. He had thought Wagiri was a middle school student. But now he realized something that changed everything. Wagiri was actually a student at Kikyo, and that could make everything more complicated. After Wagiri was seen through the Kikyo window, the once quiet schoolyard at Chidori suddenly became full of students. So I sat at his desk, complaining to Rintaro about how the Kikyo girls kept giving him angry looks. Normally he wouldn't care, but today it really started to bother him. Every girl he passed gave him a cold stare and made him feel nervous. Soon, their friends Saku and Ayato arrived, greeting everyone with cheerful good mornings. But even they admitted that Kikyo girls had been giving them dirty looks too. So he was confused, especially because even someone as kind and handsome as Saku was being treated that way. Saku just shrugged it off but said he had never liked how Kikyo girls looked down on them. He believed the two schools would never get along. Saku's words made Rintaro go quiet. That's when the others noticed a bandage on Rintaro's head. Before they could ask, Io wondered aloud why Rintaro's side of the curtains was shut. Trying to help, Sohei said it was probably because Rintaro didn't want to see the Kikyo building first thing in the morning. But Rintaro suddenly shouted that it wasn't true. His outburst surprised everyone and he awkwardly made up an excuse. Most of the group accepted it, but Saku still felt something was off. When class began, Rintaro couldn't focus. He kept thinking about Waguri's shocked face when she saw him earlier. He remembered how quickly he had closed the curtain. It must have looked rude. He started to worry she wouldn't come to the cake shop again, but thought maybe it would be better that way. The less involved she was with him, the better. After school, Sohei invited Rintaro to hang out. Rintaro checked with his mom at the cake shop, and since she didn't need help, he agreed to go with them for karaoke. As they left the school, they were laughing and chatting, already talking about what songs to sing and what food to eat. But before they could exit the school gates, they saw a large crowd. Curious, the group went to see what was going on, and to Rintaro's shock, it was Waguri. She was standing outside Chidori's gate, clearly waiting for someone. Rintaro quickly turned around, trying to stay out of sight. Meanwhile, Sohei marched up to Waguri and asked why a Kikyo student was outside their school. His rough tone scared her a little. Still, Waguri bravely said she was waiting for someone. Rintaro rushed over and pulled Sohei back, apologizing to Waguri. Then, to everyone's surprise, Sohei started crying. He wasn't angry, he was just jealous. Jealous that someone from their low-status school had a girlfriend. Suddenly, Waguri's friends came running, pushing through the crowd to bring her back to Kekyo. In the process, one of them bumped into Sohei. Angry, Sohei demanded an apology, but one of the girls slapped his hand away and glared at him before leaving with Waguri. As they walked away, Waguri looked back at Rintaro, her eyes full of worry. The group eventually left for karaoke, but Rintaro stayed a little behind, lost in thought. He wondered if Waguri really came just to see him, but told himself she might have been waiting for someone else. His friends looked back and were surprised. They told him his face looked scarier than usual. Confused, Rintaro touched his face and realized something strange. He might actually be happy. Embarrassed, he quickly caught up with the group. At the karaoke place, Sohei was singing loudly, but Rintaro stayed quiet. Saku noticed and asked if he was okay. Ayato and Sohei agreed. Rintaro had been acting weird all day, and they were especially worried since he showed up with an injury. Rintaro thought about telling the truth about Waguri, but imagined how they would react. In the end, he smiled and lied, saying everything was fine. His friends let it go and passed him the mic. Rintaro smiled at Saku and said he was okay. Saku nodded and sang along with him. That night, when Rintaro returned home, he noticed the cake shop lights were still on even though it was late. Curious, he went inside and was surprised to see Waguri waiting there. She smiled and apologized for what happened at school. She said she didn't expect so much trouble between their schools. Rintaro quickly said she had nothing to apologize for. Just then, Rintaro's mom, Kyuko, entered and scolded him for making Waguri wait. She told him to message next time. Kyuko offered Waguri some cake, and even though she said no, her stomach growled. Everyone laughed, and Rintaro invited her to share the cake with him. Rintaro quietly watched her eat, smiling as she enjoyed every bite. Then, between mouthfuls, she asked if Sohei was okay. Rintaro said yes, then asked her why she came to Chidori. Waguri looked down and honestly said she came to see him. She apologized again for causing a scene. But Rintaro told her not to apologize. He was actually happy she waited for him. He blushed, realizing what he had said, and quickly apologized for being weird. But Waguri said his words made her happy too, and he shouldn't take them back. They both looked away, red-faced. Then Rintaro admitted he was scared she might stop visiting the cake shop after finding out he went to Chidori. But Waguri said she was actually glad he was from Chidori, though she didn't say why. She stood up, said it was getting late, and smiled at him before leaving. But just before she walked out, Rintaro saw a sad look on her face. After she left, Rintaro just sat there, staring at her half-eaten cake. He felt bad and wondered if he had said something wrong. Kyuko walked in and saw how sad he looked. She was surprised. He had never looked this down before. Without asking too much, she guided him into the house. Eventually, Rintaro told her what happened. Kyuko listened quietly, then tapped his shoulder and flicked his forehead. She scolded him for letting Waguri walk home alone. Rintaro, still confused about Waguri's words, told her he didn't understand. Kyuko looked at him in disbelief and called him dense. She reminded him that Wagiri never looked down on him for being from Chidori. Instead, she reached out to him with kindness. She asked what he thought about Wagiri. Rintaro thought of all the mean things people had said about him over the years and felt like someone like Wagiri was too good for him. Then suddenly, he punched himself in the face. Blood dripped from his nose and Kyuko panicked, trying to stop the bleeding. While she helped him, Rintaro realized something. He had really hurt Wagiri's feelings. He decided he needed to make things right. The next morning, Wagiri arrived at school early like always, but froze in surprise when she saw Rintaro waiting outside the Kikyo gate. When he saw her, he walked over and told her he had been waiting just for her. He apologized for hurting her. Wagiri looked confused, so he said he saw her sad expression when she left the shop. She crouched down, embarrassed, and apologized for showing that side of herself. Rintaro knelt down too and told her to stop saying sorry. He realized that she had always been honest and kind to him and he wanted to do the same for her. He admitted that he used to believe Chidori and Kikyo would always be enemies. But after meeting her, he started to care what people said about Kikyo because he didn't want them to speak badly about her. He apologized again, saying he was wrong to care about what others thought instead of how she felt. He also told her the truth, that it made him happy to know she had waited for him. Wagiri looked surprised, but then gave him a warm smile and said he was forgiven. She stood up straight and formally introduced herself again, saying their schools didn't matter. What mattered was knowing each other for who they really were. Since there was still time before class, Wagiri asked for a small favor. She wanted them to go to their classrooms and wave at each other from the windows. Rintaro agreed. When he got to his seat, he looked across and saw her smiling brightly, waving at him with both hands. He smiled and raised his hand too, watching her face light up with joy. The next day, Rintaro complained about how hot it was. Sohei suggested they go to the teacher's room to turn on the air conditioner. On the way there, Sohei complained that school was boring that day and said he couldn't stand it unless something fun happened. While saying this, he suddenly remembered that the sports festival would be happening later that month. Even though it was a normal school event, it was enough to get him super excited. However, when the teacher noticed his excitement, he told both Sohei and Rintaro that they wouldn't be able to take part in the festival. Hearing this, Sohei felt upset and asked why. The teacher explained that anyone who got a bad grade on the upcoming exam would have to take a makeup test during the festival instead of joining the event. Sohei pointed out that they hadn't even taken the test yet, so they shouldn't be punished already. But the teacher, knowing they both had the worst grades in their class, didn't look convinced and asked if they truly believed they could pass. Sohei admitted he had already seen the test material and didn't think he could get a good grade. Even so, Sohei asked if their effort could still be rewarded. The teacher thought for a moment, then made a deal. If both of them managed to join the festival and Sohei won, he would buy him an ice cream. Later, Sohei sat at a desk with his hands on his head, completely stressed out, trying to figure out how many hours he needed to study to get a decent grade. Saku, who saw him like that, told him he wouldn't get anywhere if he kept panicking. Sohei then begged Saku to help him study for the test, but Saku refused, reminding him that even after studying together last time, Sohei still got a bad grade. Sohei promised that this time he would work hard for real and ask again. Meanwhile, Ayato went to see if Rintaro was feeling okay about the exam. But Rintaro was just as nervous and said he was also worried about everyone's grades. He asked Ayato for help, but Ayato admitted he didn't understand most of the test material either. Later, Sohei tried to guilt Saku into helping by reminding him that both he and Rintaro wouldn't be able to play in the festival if they failed, which would make the team weaker. But Saku still didn't care. At the same time, Rintaro got a message from his mom saying the bakery had a special sale. She told him to invite Wagiri to go with him. So he sent Wagiri a message, but she replied that she was too busy. After class, Sohei asked Rintaro to study with him at the school library. While they were studying, Sohei realized for the first time that he couldn't study well on his own. Rintaro told him to stop being stubborn and ask for help again. So I remember how he failed even after getting help before, which made him embarrassed to ask again. But Rintaro reminded him that Saku also looked forward to the festival and was probably just being grumpy. With a good talk, maybe they could convince him to help. So I finally realized he had been acting immature and decided to try fixing things. Before leaving, he said he was excited about the festival because Rintaro would be there too. While sitting alone in the library, Rintaro was surprised when two girls walked in looking for a place to study. He gave up his seat for them and left. On the way out, he heard Wagiri's voice and saw that she was helping another classmate study. However, Wagiri soon got distracted and started drawing in her books. Her classmate then told her that even someone at the top of the class like Wagiri needs a breather sometimes. After hearing their conversation, Rintaro quietly left. He felt impressed by how dedicated Wagiri was and disappointed in himself. Compared to her, he felt like a failure who went to a school full of useless students. The fact that he had failed even after getting help made him feel worse. He started to believe he wouldn't be able to pass the test and gave up, deciding he'd just take the makeup exam. But suddenly, Waguru walked up to him and said she saw him hiding behind the bookshelf and followed him. She asked if he had come to study too. He didn't know what to say. His studying wasn't going well at all. So he changed the topic. Waguri then brought up the bakery sale he had invited her to and said she might go to the next one. She explained that she needed to save money from her part-time job before spending too much. This surprised Rintaro. He had always assumed she was just a rich girl. Waguri told Rintaro that she wasn't the girl he thought she was. She also explained that she only joined the Kikyo school because she earned a scholarship, not because she came from a rich family. In fact, she said she didn't have much money and had to work harder than others to succeed. Rintaro was surprised to hear that and asked her why she worked so hard. Waguri explained that she had begged her father to let her attend the school, and now she didn't want to betray his trust. Hearing this, Rintaro felt inspired. He told Waguri he wanted to take his studies seriously, just like her, and asked if she could help him study. Hearing this made Waguri happy. Even though she was busy, she promised to reach out when she had time. Just as Waguri was about to leave, one of her friends, Subaru, showed up. He asked who the boy with her was and seemed suspicious of Rintaro. When Rintaro noticed Subaru's silver hair, he guessed that she was a foreigner. Subaru then asked Rintaro if he was from Chidori. When Rintaro said yes, Subaru got even more upset. He told Rintaro to stay away from Waguri, saying he didn't want someone from Chidori near his friend. Waguri tried to stop Subaru and explain, but Subaru interrupted her. She said he would do anything to protect Waguri from the so-called brutes of Chidori. It was clear she didn't trust Rintaro at all. Meanwhile, Rintaro's friends noticed Rintaro from a distance and called out to him. They then asked the two girls on what they were doing with Rintaro. Subaru, annoyed, told Waguri that they shouldn't waste time talking to people from Chidori. One of the boys, Soe, didn't like being insulted and started walking toward them. He said he recognized Waguri and wanted to talk. At that moment, Subaru pulled Waguri away and Rintaro pushed Sohei aside. Realizing what he had done, Rintaro quickly said he acted on instinct and didn't really understand why. As Subaru walked off, Saku mocked her and brought up an earlier question they hadn't answered. He also asked how Subaru was allowed to have dyed hair, since most Japanese schools don't permit it. He guessed she must be from a spoiled, rich family if her school was that relaxed. Just as Waguri was about to defend Subaru, Rintaro stepped in and told Saku he had crossed the line. He reminded him that he wasn't usually the type to say such lame things. Rintaro also explained that the girl with Subaru was the same one who had been waiting at the Chidori gate the day before. He admitted that he was actually the one who first spoke to Waguri, which is why they had been seen together. Sohei then apologized to Waguri for scaring her the other day. Waguri bowed and apologized too, in case she had done anything wrong. This surprised everyone since Kikyo girls weren't usually like that. Sumaru didn't like it and got angry with Waguri for apologizing to students from Chidori. When Waguri asked Subaru to apologize too, Subaru simply walked away. Later, while they were talking, Waguri reminded Subaru that Rintaro had defended them when Saku made those horrible comments. This made Subaru think that maybe Rintaro wasn't so bad after all. That night, Rintaro went back home and tried studying again, but he kept making the same mistakes. Even though Saku had explained everything, he still couldn't get it right. While he was studying, Waguri messaged him and asked if they could talk. When Rintaro answered the call, he noticed that her voice sounded softer than usual and asked if something was wrong. Waguri said she just wanted to apologize for how her friend Subaru had acted earlier. She said Subaru was actually a good person deep down. Rintaro told her he wasn't angry, but Waguri still felt bad. She said she had made Rintaro lie by pretending he had been the one to approach her, even though it was her idea to talk to him. As they spoke, Rintaro noticed that Waguri still used very formal language, which made him feel like she was keeping her distance. Before ending the call, Waguri asked if he wanted to study together that weekend. Rintaro happily accepted. Just as she was about to hang up, Rintaro quickly asked her to stop using such formal language with him, hoping it would help them get closer. After they hung up, both of them blushed, especially Waguri. That marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.